Hi friends, this is Emily doing the live today with Claire Vanderplank, and I'm just going to try to add her here. And Claire is a founder, and we're really excited to have her on to talk about her work there and what she's been up to. So I'm just checking with Claire. Did you get the invitation? Yeah, great.
Oh, hang on. Now I know what I should do. What is that?
Hi Claire. Thank you so much
Hello.
for joining us from Western
Yeah,
Australia.
no problem at all.
Yeah. And I know that you've been starting up the Western Australia Water Alliance, and I want to hear more about that, but I'm really curious about your own path, kind of moving towards water regeneration and earth stewardship and the path that you've taken to be where you are today, and maybe what are some points in your life that led you to choose to do this work?
Yeah. Um, I think I've always been passionate about nature, like in grade three, I think it was, show and tell. I think we were watching like a documentary about dolphins the night before. So I stood up in class and said that dolphins are more intelligent than humans because they didn't destroy their environment until the teacher told me to sit down. Um, but yeah, I actually started off in health. Like I had thought, well, you have to work with people in order to affect the environment. And somehow I decided to start in health. I suppose I didn't know exactly what the path would look like, but I progressively moved over more into sustainability, but from a very head-based perspective, and sort of worked my way into, yeah, like corporate, doing stakeholder engagement stuff. Um, But while I was doing that, at some point in time, I got hit by a truck, like literally got hit by a truck.
What?
Yeah. And
Wow.
the result of that was um, I wasn't hurt too badly. Like I was hurt just enough though that over the next few months I realized that I really needed to do something. Like
Mm.
something wasn't right. I eventually the word disconnected me, which wasn't a language that I would have used previously. But I think that created sort of the space for this invitation to arrive to me to go and do this retreat in nature with John Milton from Way of Nature, who's based in the States. But someone had brought him to Australia. So I just saw the invitation and I went, yes, I have to do that. So that involved spending a week alone in one spot
Mm.
on an island off the coast of Tasmania. And that really was like a breakthrough sort of into a different worldview, like understanding what it actually really could be like to be a human being in visceral connection with nature. And yeah, that was a big turning point that sort of changed the trajectory that I was on and progressed. I went to the States and did more training and did much longer solos as well. Um, so my work, as much as I could, I kept, moving it in that direction. And I call it with nature. That has become my personal business. But in that practice of doing that, of spending long periods of time alone in nature, and really still very much with you that, it's, yes, personal healing and transmutation and development and all that, but I always wanted that connected to like, well, what does this actually mean for where we're as a species, and how do we create systemic change on a scale that's going to make a difference?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd kind of carried that intention out with me on one of my personal solos. And I was down by a river down in the south of Australia where there's, beautiful trees and really amazing, like, this catchment is pretty much all still forested. So it's one of the last truly clean rivers that you find pretty much anywhere. Um, and while I was down there, Like normally I would deliberately try to drink the water from the place that I am as part of the like becoming the place sort of process. But I was in a bit of a rush moving down there, and I had this big jug of water still in my car, and I was camped quite close to my car. So I just kept going and filling up my water from the car. And I was sitting by the river one evening, just idly like brushing my teeth or something. And I heard the river say, "Why don't you drink from me?"
Mm.
And it was sad. But that, I mean, it was that the sadness impacted me, but then the layers to the answer to that question started to unfold in my mind, and realizing that the water is reflecting everything that we do within a catchment. Um, it's not just like the pollution directly into the river. It reflects our economy. It reflects our culture. It reflects our spiritual practices. Um, and so it was the river that taught me about water should be our primary organizing principle. And later on heard about terms like bioregionalism and that sort of thing. But it was that river that really went, yeah, waters both should come first and it also should come last in terms of like, it's the ultimate indicator of are we on track as a species? Can you drink the water?
Yeah, thank you for that story. It really speaks to this experience that I've also had around initiation and how important it is for us to do that in these times, and something that our cultures in the past and indigenous cultures today still practice with their young people, right? And people who are in cultures that do initiation for adolescents are able to have adults in their culture, right? And it's I don't know, there's a teacher that has said this, but the reason why we are in such a mess is because we're all just kind of adolescent and haven't had an initiation into adulthood and right relationship and responsibility for what we've been given on this planet, right? And we talk about that in the film around the reason why is because we are not connecting to nature. We're not having that visceral feeling of being connected to the land, and it's really a dangerous thing actually for
And
species.
having our purpose in life, the initiation into adulthood is also about, what am I here to do? And having that connected to the land, having it needs to come from something greater than ourselves. And it needs to come from something true, which is nature. So those kinds of experiences both help us like clear the personal crap that's stopping us from being clear aligned human being. And that kind of ordeal obviously is really important in breaking through to another stage of development, if you want to call it that. But doing it in nature is crucial. I don't think we need initiations that are all just human created. It's like actually realizing that we're not this isolated thing that's here just to make choices for ourselves, but that we're part of, the team of life.
Right. And also to allow ourselves to be challenged by nature because Western culture is so protected and so made to be so comfortable that we aren't challenged to have that relationship or know what to do when we're out of water, or know how to feed ourselves. And that also becomes this dependency on the system and the cultures that we're embedded in Western supremacy, basically, right? And so it's so important to, I don't know, like allow ourselves to go through those ordeals. And something that I quoted at a retreat that I was supporting to facilitate a couple weeks ago was that like grief matures us also. And grief and the ordeal of having to do something and to be a little scared and to find out what is our power as a human being in relationship with our environment is it puts us on another level of responsibility and humanness. And yeah.
Definitely. definitely. And over that physical separation that we have from nature in terms of like, you put any modern human out into nature and, probably myself included, really, let's be honest,
Yeah.
like we're probably not going to survive.
Right.
But the more, each little bit that we do to feel like we can be competent, we feel that we can trust also that what's around us, isn't actually out to get us, that there is, what we need ultimately is actually there.
Hmm.
It reduces that fear separation of, well, and the sense of belonging. Once I think you can overcome that sense of like, oh my god, I'm out here alone, something's going to get me sort of thing, then you can start to feel like you might actually belong, as well. Yeah, that's, we could talk about that topic all night.
Could go on and on about this, but I'm also curious because part of what Water is Love talks about is supporting and working with the land to receive the rain. And I'm curious if you could share more about the Western Australia Water Alliance and how do you work with what's already there, how to support a land that, I mean, I don't know if Western Australia is dry or has forests or anything about it,
Yeah.
but I imagine it's so affected by everything
Mm.
that we're all experiencing. So yeah,
Western Australia is a huge state, but really most of it's desert. Um, so overall, yes, very dry. But in the southern, especially the southwestern corner, there's a lot of forests. Um, but further inland from that is a huge agricultural region, which was about then cleared with colonization, and obviously the effect that it has had on the land and also water cycles has been massive. Um, of course, there's some areas that have been experiencing floods, and then at the same time, last summer in particular, we had this terrible, like 6 month dry and extremely hot spell, which resulted in massive forest die off. So, for about 1,000 kilometre stretch from the south coast all the way up to basically where the desert really starts, or starts in connection with the coast, ecosystems were essentially beginning a process of collapse with vast, all kinds of species just browning off and dying. Many of which, when the rain comes, things will start to grow again, and it's that regeneration of life, of course. But it's a sign that they're on the brink, uh, how much more, how many more summers like that is it going to take before it's a big phase shift into a different kind of ecosystem? Um, so yeah, we've definitely got significant water challenges. Salinity is a massive issue in the agricultural areas, and so again, that's a big freshwater issue. Fire, of course, in the vegetated and even now the farming areas is huge. Um, yeah, so there's a big need, like in Western Australia, there's lots of people doing many great things that are related to water, but so far not an organisation that's dedicated to water. And so, with this message from the river, um, this was a few years of evolution of thinking about what I was going to do about it, but it eventually came to, yeah, just the action has to start. uh, so even though I don't have, any kind of background in hydrology or environmental science, or even really, I live in the city, I do work in and with nature, but I'm not a custodian of vast areas of land. But there is the need for someone to create that space to have people sort of come together. Um, I did do the course with Water Stories last year about water cycle regeneration, so I've got now at least a little bit of practical knowledge to
yeah,
feed into. And obviously that was a big part of the message in the film as well. So yeah, the science is just in the process of being born now, basically. And so thank you to you guys for creating the film, because it forms a really great launch focus, because there's so many layers, both in my partnering with nature work and then now what the focus is with the Water Alliance. There's so many of those layers present in the Water is Love film. So it makes it an awesome point of conversation and contemplation. Yeah.
yeah. And there was a screening in Fremantle recently for World Water Day, and how was that? How did people, because we aren't often in these spaces where the film is
Yeah.
screened, so what was it like? What did people say? You know?
Oh, look, the vibe was good. I went to do like a brief hello and mention the Water Alliance, but then I had to go out to the place where we're doing a demonstration project. So we had this fundraiser weekend
Oh, right, right.
over
Hmm.
the day. Yeah, so I didn't get to see what everyone thought of at that film that was already in Fremantle, the screening in Freo. But yeah, we went out and I screened it that night at this fundraiser weekend out on the land, and it was, it was very moving, I think, for everyone to see what the everyone was there with the intention of being part of this restoration project. So yeah, it was very touching for them to see the bigger picture, like how what we're doing there is connected to this, real global issue with people all around the world switching on to it. Um, yeah,
Mm.
so
And
it
can
was
you tell,
beautiful. And
yeah, sorry,
I
go ahead.
screened, I did a little screening for my friends just in my living room last weekend as well, um, which was even like it was very special there as well, like just to have a circle of friends. The conversation that started as a result of the film, I asked everyone what they took out of it at the end, and every single person took out something, quite different. And I think that it showed the span of what's in there, like so many different seeds that are there for people to pick up. It
Yeah.
was lovely, and got that. I realized, like, yeah, doing it in living rooms and kitchens is like that's the best place to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that was our intention also when we, like the film was ready last year on World Water Day, and we were like, oh, let's just put it online and let it have its life. And I was like, yeah, but we want people to come together. We don't want people to
Yeah,
watch online, and that's why I work so hard to do the screenings on World Water Day and to bring people together, and that's was has been our strategy all year is getting people together in circle in community spaces to talk about this, because otherwise how is it going to get done? Like, how are
yeah,
people feel motivated to stay connected or anything like that if you're just watching it alone? And
totally.
so it's been really a huge reward and beauty to see people coming together and to hear about these things
Yeah,
happen that the film
yeah.
we
It,
use to organize.
yeah, it's great. It fits the whole theme of this decentralized water retention. We're not looking for a government to create a grand plan that they're going to execute on. Like, it really does start from the grassroots, and I think that yeah, it makes sense that the film gets out there via people coming together in their local watershed. Yeah.
Yeah. And before we close, I'm just curious if you want to tell us a little bit about the project that you're fundraising for.
Yes. So there's both. I'm fundraising for both the WA Water Alliance to get that going, um, but then the demonstration project, so the direct building water retention features out in the wheat belt, which is the area sort of inland that is the prime sort of agricultural area,
Mhm.
um, primarily wheat and sheep. Um, so that area is it's dried up incredibly. Um, Salinity is a huge issue. So there's lots of things that really need to be fixed out there, and very difficult for farmers to find a different way. They're very locked into wheat and sheep farming, but the land, had a lot of other potential to it before it got really devastated. So friends of mine have a smallish for the region parcel of land that they've been regenerating for about 15 years, all kind of basically low to no budget stuff. Um, and they've done some work with the water on the land, but what we want to do now is being able to build some ponds, um, to be able to really, transform by having hopefully a year-round water body at the end of the day. Even if one or two of the ponds are not year round. That's still awesome. It'll help the water, soak into the land. Um, but yeah, that's what we're fundraising for, to be able to hire the equipment, to be able to do the work, be able to have this as, a demonstration site, really, because it's right on the water catchment that feeds into the river that goes through the main city here, Perth. This property is right at the top of the catchment. And in fact, the property, depending on what side of the hill you're on, goes into two or three different catchments. But yeah, the river coming through the city. So it's the focal point, really, of everyone's consciousness.
Right.
Um, yeah, that it starts up there. So I think it's a great story to be able to connect people to not just what's happening in the city, but then also in the forested area and the agricultural area, and tell the story of water as it moves through.
And I love this idea of doing a demonstration project and having it
Mm,
be like a resource for people to see what can be done. And yeah, I just want to wish you a lot of abundance and flow of resources, that people like know that it's so important to move our resources in a way that's regenerative, and may all water projects be funded
yeah,
completely. Like may it be so, please. Yeah, and so just really good luck with that. And if you're watching and you have a few extra dollars, maybe Claire, you can put in the comments after we're done the link to donate to your project.
definitely.
And if there's anything else you want to say about getting involved or any upcoming events that people can join.
Yeah, there's definitely, I have a sort of the first big public event for the Water Alliance on April 30, which will include a screening of Water is Love. And yeah, we'll have some musicians, we will have some Indigenous speakers, um, and a bit of discussion. I'm really keen on, dialogue, as we've sort of touched on. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit bigger than just my living room, but yeah, we'll have some interaction between people. But yeah, that's also the first kind of letting people know how they could be involved in the Water Alliance, because it's definitely not intended to just be me. This whole thing is way bigger than what one person can do. So there's a few avenues that you can find out about.
Great. Well, I hope your team comes together and the money flows. And thank you for your work. And thank you for your deep knowing about initiation and the necessity of that in these times for all of us. And thank you for taking your time to talk with us about your work.
And gratitude right back at you. I think the creation of this film is a really big gift. So thanks for all your work.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.